There are stories that definitely surpass fiction, but the one we are going to tell you today seems like something out of a soap opera, mixed with a horror story. This is the story of a man in love who is willing to do anything for the woman he loved, even declaring war on his father. Peter was the third and only living son of King Afonso IV of Portugal. As heir, all the hopes of the kingdom were placed on him. Portugal needed to have an alliance with its neighbor, Castile, and for that reason, Afonso married off Peter to Princess Constanza to promote peace. In 1340, Peter married Constance in a ceremony so impressive that songs and poems were written about it. As was often the case with arranged marriages, Peter was not in love with his new wife. Far from it. He had already set his eyes on one of Constanza's ladies-in-waiting, Inés de Castro. Completely enraptured with Inés, Peter soon began to send her letters and poems written. Inés fell in love with the romantic Peter. The two kept their relationship a secret for years until, in 1345, Constanza died weeks after giving birth to their third son, who would become King Ferdinand I. For Peter, destiny was giving him the opportunity to be with the woman he truly loved in accordance with the law. However, King Afonso had other plans. Peter was to marry another Castilian aristocrat to maintain his alliance. Peter, who had already pleased his father once, was unwilling to commit to another woman, so he decided to move in with Inés. When Peter gave Inés's brothers important positions in the government, Afonso became aware of the relationship between the two and set out to get rid of her. The best way to do this was to send her back to Castile, where the distance would make his son forget about her. Of course, Peter and Inés's love for each other was so great that not even distance could separate them. On the contrary, the two sent each other more letters than ever, reinforcing their relationship. Peter realized that his father would never approve of their relationship, so the only way for them to get back together was to overthrow his father and assume the throne. Afonso, in turn, also accepted that his son would not change his mind, and although in history he is usually seen as the villain who did not care about his son's happiness. Afonso's greatest concern was that Castile would be offended by the annulment of the compromise, and that a war would be unleashed that they could never win. The only way Afonso thought to save his kingdom from ending up in Castilian hands was to act against Peter and Inés's relationship. In 1355, Afonso sent 3 men to find Inés, who had previously been secretly taken back to Portugal, and kill her. When Peter realized that his father had killed his beloved Inés, his fury inflamed. He rallied his troops and declared war on his own father. The bloody civil war between father and son lasted 2 years, and Peter lost. However, fate was on his side, and his father died soon after. In 1357, Peter I of Portugal was crowned, and with all the power in his hands, he decided to avenge the death of his beloved Inés. He found the men his father had hired and unleashed his fury against them. They were tortured in public. It's said this happened while he was enjoying his lunch. And tore out their hearts. His revenge earned him the nickname Peter the Cruel, a nickname that was actually promoted by his enemies at court. In fact, it is said that Peter was a benevolent and just man, and although the nickname stuck, the people also came to know him as Peter the Just. It is said that although he went on a rampage against these men, for Peter, it was not enough to honor the memory of his beloved. Above all, he wanted people to know about her and not be remembered as the mistress of a prince, so he had announced that they had married in secret. As if that were not enough, he wanted Inês to go down in history as the legitimate Queen of Portugal. To this end, he organized a ceremony to exhume her remains. These were transferred to the monastery of Alcobaça, the resting place of the kings of Portugal. Up to this point, everything in history had been proven with evidence. The following is part of the legend of Peter I of Portugal. It is said that the body was arranged and placed on a throne in the monastery. Inês was dressed in royal attire and was crowned Queen of Portugal. In addition, he had people from his court swear their loyalty to the new queen by kissing the hand of her corpse. Not only did it give her the place before the court, but it made her enemies humble themselves before her. Peter and Inês had 4 sons. The youngest succeeded his half-brother Ferdinand as John I of Portugal. The tragic love story between Peter and Inês inspired dozens of poems, operas, plays, and even films. At the time, love was not seen as it is today, and therefore the story was worthy of admiration, although we cannot help thinking about the macabre ending. Despite this dark side, Peter went down in history as one of Portugal's greatest monarchs, a just king who always lived for his people.